We're glad to have you with us today for The World and Everything in It from World Radio. Many small towns across America are losing population as younger people move away to pursue greater economic and cultural opportunities in larger towns and cities. 10 years ago, Huron, South Dakota faced that problem. The population of the town, once more than 14,000, had dropped to less than 12,000. But instead of accepting a future of economic and population decline, the town's largest employer recruited new workers and residents from an unlikely place. And as World intern Sarah Wadle reports now, Huron is trying hard to keep those new folks in town.
A century ago, it was Russian and German immigrants who settled the flat prairie lands surrounding Huron, South Dakota. But today, the town of 13,000 is home to a different kind of immigrant. Seidomu Pa wears a straw hat to protect against the intense sun. She and her sister, Waka Pa, share a plot in the community garden in Huron. They're growing sweet corn, pumpkins, and tomatoes, all foods they remember from their childhood in a refugee camp in Thailand. The sisters are ethnically Karen, refugees from Myanmar, the country also known as Burma. Fleeing ethnic and religious persecution, they came to South Dakota because friends and family told them they would find good jobs and a quiet life.
For my opinion, it's peaceful. In here, it's not a lot of crime and the population is okay.
Seidomu dreams of working in human services. This fall, Seidomu's sister will work to put her through technical school. The sisters came to Huron as a part of a U.S. refugee resettlement program that lasted from 2005 to 2014. Today, 70,000 Karen refugees live in the United States. 2,200 of those live in Huron.
I've worked for 45 years in the meat industry. I've tried all different cultures. The Karen are the best people I've ever found.
That's Mark Houston, head of human resources for Dakota Provisions, a turkey packing plant that processes 20,000 birds a day. Working on the line at the plant isn't necessarily desirable work. It's long hours doing repeated motions in a room kept at sub-50-degree temperatures. The smell of blood and ammonium stings workers' noses. Houston found it difficult to get local youth to work at the plant. Soon after the plant opened, he fired 139 Caucasian youth because of their unreliability. Faced with a labor shortage a decade ago, Houston went on an employee recruiting trip to Minneapolis. There, he met 3 Karen men. He convinced them to move to Huron with their families and work at his plant. Now, Dakota Provisions employs more than 600 Karen.
We spend most of our time as a company getting housing for them, financing cars, getting them English, doing all kinds of different things that give them reasons to never leave.
Brooke Saido heads up Huron's local economic development organization. She says it's a challenge for towns such as Huron to attract workers.
People aren't just flocking to move to the Midwest. There's emerging research that's showing that the traditional middle-class white American isn't coming here, no matter how hard we try.
Employers, state, and local officials all want the Karen to stay. One way is through scholarships to Karen students, a program called Build Dakota, run by the state in conjunction with many South Dakota industries, provides scholarships to select students who promise to work in the state for 3 years after graduation. Eku Pa, a nurse's aide at Dakota Provisions, is one beneficiary of the program. Dakota Provisions will pay for her to go to nursing school this fall. Without the scholarship, the married mother of 2 young children wouldn't be able to attend school.
They're going to send me to school, and then when I'm done, then I'll become their nurse. It's a very good opportunity for me. I probably wouldn't have done it all by myself if I have to do it.
But good jobs are not enough. Economic Development Director Brooke Saido says the future of rural communities depends on their ability to embrace immigrants. A big part of that job falls to local churches and other community organizations. 7 years ago, Huron's Jesselyn Magnus began teaching English as a second language out of a church basement. She says at first, some local residents were worried about the impact of so many foreigners. But over time, she has seen attitudes change.
I think people have become more accepting because they are seeing that they're hard workers and they're doing work that most individuals themselves wouldn't want to do. So they're seeing that they're succeeding and they're going to give back to the community.
Magnus is good friends with La May Passo, who works as a Karen translator at Lutheran Social Services.
Right now I'm not hungry yet, so that's how I told people.
Or when I go buy a house, remember that.
La cradles her 7-week-old daughter as she explains that the Karen like living in a small town with low crime rates and land to garden. But they still encounter people in the community who regard them with suspicion.
We walk to the store, they say, look at these people. They come and live in here and make our cities dirty. Some people, they think that like a Korean people come to United States is illegal. So me and my supervisor for the social service, and then we have to go to the church and explain like.
While Huron's welcome of the Karen hasn't been without problems, it's gone better than most could have imagined. Residents attribute at least part of the success to the shared Christian faith of the Karen and the people of Huron. Many of the Karen became believers in the early 1800s when American missionary Adoniram Judson evangelized the people group. Dakota Provision's Mark Houston thinks the Karen's faith in God has shaped their work ethic and has given them a strong sense of community.
I think the main reason the Karen are such good workers is because 77% of the Karen coming out of refugee camp are Christians. And they work hard because it says in the Bible you're supposed to work hard. And so they work hard.
Houston also says his attitude toward the Karen is shaped by his faith.
I think as Christian people, that's our job to work with people, teach people that have not been treated fairly in their life.
Although assimilating more than 2,000 refugees into this small town has gone fairly smoothly, Jessalyn Magnus believes more needs to be done to build bridges between the Karen and other Huron residents.
That's what I told them all the time.
She says the situation presents an opportunity for local churches.
I think there's a need more for churches to go outside their church walls and minister and reach out to them because most of them aren't going to feel comfortable just to walk in.
Huron's First Baptist Church is one church where the Karen feel welcome. The church has 400 Karen members. First Baptist pastor Dwayne Williams concedes that there is more that could be done. But he says he's pleased that many of the townspeople have shown great hospitality toward these newer immigrants, who, 100 years after Huron's original Russians and Germans, have come here in search of a better life.
And looking for the American dream as well, and they're finding it. In the middle of the heartland, in the middle of Huron, South Dakota, which is only 13,000 people, and they're thriving, and they're worshiping, and the community is opening up their arms and embracing them. I think that something's going on overall in the whole state of South Dakota that's going to be a model for the entire nation to look after. What I do see is an openness and a willingness of the people to embrace people for who they are and to try to assist in making a place where all of God's children can come and live together and thrive.
Reporting from Huron, South Dakota for World Radio, I'm Sarah Wadle.